This is the 23rd of March 1994, and today I want to take up this subject of level 5C bracket, overts, end of bracket. At the level of therapy of level 5C, which is very, very late in therapy, at this level of therapy, the only thing that can prevent a junior universe from going through to erasure is that the person is continuing to compulsively commit overt acts against that junior universe in their present day life. Now, note that statement very, very carefully. It's a very precise statement. I'm not saying that the only thing that can prevent a junior universe from erasing is overt acts against that junior universe. No, I'm not saying that at all. There's many, many things that can prevent a junior universe from erasing in therapy. But we've covered all of them by the time we get to the end of level 5C. So if we get to the bottom of 5C and we still have junior universes that are unerased and will not erase in therapy, then the only reason for this state of affairs is that the person is continuing to commit, probably almost certainly unknowingly, they're committing overt acts against that junior universe in present time games play. Or potentially they will commit overt acts against that junior universe if they come across it in life. Now, this is an important datum, very important subject to us. This is important to us simply because if these junior universes hang fire at level 5C, then the to know goals package at level 5C, level 5A, is prevented from going through to erasure. You understand that? So therefore, level 5 cannot be completed. Level 5 will not complete if level 5C won't complete. And in the final stages, the only thing that's going to prevent the completion of level 5C is overt acts against the junior universes, against those junior universes that hang fire at level 5C. Everything else has been covered. Everything else has been covered. We've gone in there. We've taken the purpose of the junior universe apart. We've erased the junior goals packages that contain these purposes. We've done everything. We've got the junior universe apart. We have there. So as far as the junior universe is concerned, we've dismembered it. So why won't it erase? Well, the only thing that will hold it is that the person is overting against the junior universe. It's not the fault of the junior universe. It's that the person is holding this thing in suspension in his mind so that he can overt against it. Now that's the thing you have to understand. It's a conscious decision unknowingly, admittedly, it's a constant unknowing decision on the part of the being to hold this thing in suspension in their mind in order to play this rather silly game of committing overt acts against it in life. And because they're doing this, the junior universe at level 5C will not erase, and therefore level 5A will not erase, the no goals package won't erase, and we cannot complete level 5. So we have to do something about it. Now, you might say, but surely we have a very, very good technique at level 4 for handling overt acts, where we take out at level 4, we take up the 8 classes of overts and motivators on the to know goals package. Yes, indeed, we do. It's a very, very good technique. But, and get this very, very clearly, it is not proof against the person who does not regard his actions as an overt act. You see that? You see, picking these things up at level 4 depends upon the person regarding his action as an overt act. If he regards them as an overt act, he can pick them up at level 4, and they will come apart at level 4 routinely. But supposing he's committing some overt acts against junior universes which aren't picked up at level 4 simply because he does not consider them to be overt acts. In other words, he's justifying his behaviour. He's justifying his overt act. He's like the SS guard, you know, as he's herding another flock of Jews into the gas chamber. He's saying, well, I'm an honourable man. I'm not committing any overt acts. I'm just doing my duty. I'm not doing anything wrong here, he says, as he herds another flock of Jews into the gas chamber. Now here you see a person who's justifying his overt acts. He's calling it something else than what it is. It's an overt act, but he's calling it something else. We don't know what he's calling it, but he's justifying it. And while he continues to justify his overt act, it will skid through the filter at level 4. See that? He simply won't pick it up. If it crosses his mind, he'll say, "Oh no, that's not an overt act. That's nothing. That's nothing there. That's all right. I'm just doing that. That's just a part of life, you know." He won't see that as a discreditable thing. So it slips through the filter at level 4. He gets on to level 5, runs the to no goals package, takes a lot more charge off his case, gets through, flattens off level 5B, gets on to 5C, and gets stuck where? Gets stuck right at the end with one or more junior universes that won't erase. See it? Now, I didn't have this problem in therapy. I didn't have this problem. I cleaned them all up at level 4. I got the lot. I'm too old a hand on this subject of overt acts and motivators, but this material is going out to people who haven't got my profound understanding of the subject of overt acts and motivators, compounded of 30 years experience as a practicing therapist. In that period of time, you do learn a fair bit about the subject of overt acts and motivators and justifications and so forth. So I can confidently predict that on the write-up of TROM as it stands today, people are going to go through the levels to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and get right to the end, 5A, 5B, 5C, and then get stuck at 5C because they can't erase these little junior universes at level 5C, and they're going to get worried about it, won't know what's going on, and they won't realise that they're overting because they're justifying their overt, you see. But nevertheless, the whole of their therapy will grind to a shuddering halt at that point. All right, well, what are we going to do about that? I know it's going to happen. It will happen for sure. Well, we can do something about it very easily. Well, now, first off, it's no good asking this person or assuming or saying to the person, backing up some technique to them which implies that they're committing overts against these terminals. You follow that? Because they're justifying their overts. So we can't use an overt technology that is overtly designed to handle overts. You see that? Because it's an invalidation. It's an invalidation. If this material was obviously overts, it would show up at level 4. You see that? And if the person had realised during the running of level 5 that these were overts, it would have handled at level 5A. See, level 5A will handle overts too. When you're running the general to no goals package, that will handle overts and motivators of the goals package. So it will handle overts at level 5A too. So they skid through 4 and skid through 5A. Get it? So it's no good saying that well, we're going to have to, well, what the person's going to have to run is like something like, what have you done, what have you withheld? No, flunk. That won't work. It won't work because it invalidates the person. You see, they're sitting there. This is what's going to happen. They're going to sit there with one or more junior universes which will not erase, and they don't know why they won't erase because they're not aware that they're running overts on these things. So we need a technology which isn't going to invalidate them, But at the same time, it's going to run out these overts. And that's the problem. And we have such a technology. There is such a technology that will do this. We can actually run out overts. There is a command, or a set of commands we can use that will run out overts most elegantly and most efficiently without ever mentioning that they're overts, without even implying that they're an overt. And to do this, we use the justification mechanism of the human mind. Now, what is the biggest justification for an overt? What's the biggest justification? Let's go back to the SS guard who's herding Jews into the gas chamber. If you was to ask him, you say, "Now look, you're herding these Jews in there. Now, what are you doing?" He says, "Well, this is Hitler's final solution to handling the Jews." You see that? That's what he'd say. That would be his answer. He'd say, "We're simply handling the Jewish problem." Note the verb there, to handle. See it? He's justifying his overt act under the mantle of handling. And there is the euphemism. It's a euphemism. It's a pure euphemism. It's an overt act. But he doesn't call it an overt act. He's saying he's handling. You know, the mafia boss turns around to his lieutenants and says, "Go out and handle so-and-so and so-and-so." And he means go out and blow them up with a bomb or go out and mow them down with a machine gun. But he calls it euphemistically handle. An army commander might say the same thing when talking to his lieutenants. He'll say, "Well, we need to handle Hill 4, don't we, gentlemen? Now you take your troops out and we'll mop up that pocket of enemy in Hill 4. We'll get that situation handled." Again, the euphemism, handled. Now, the verb to handle is the goal to handle is a very interesting goal. A very interesting goal indeed. Now, the first thing we need to know about this goal to handle, is it erasable? Yes, it is erasable. The goal to handle means, if you look it up in the dictionary, to handle means to manage. The word handle comes from an Anglo-Saxon root. We get the word hand, and the word handle comes from the word hand, and both of them come from the Anglo-Saxon root. But the word manage comes from Latin, comes from the Latin word for hand, manus. So we get the word manage there, comes from the Latin for hand, and handle comes from the Anglo-Saxon for hand, but both mean the same thing. So to handle means to manage, and if you define it as that, it's erasable. It's erasable. If you define to handle as to manage, it's erasable. But if you define it in a destructive sense, then it's an unerasable goals package. Actually, the goal to handle is within the goal to control. It's a subdivision of the goal to control. And in the write-up of Trom, I mentioned that the goal to control will not erase unless you define it as to direct the disposition of, which is the definition of the word control. So again, we find that this the goal to handle, which is within the goal to control, is only erasable providing we define it exactly as per the dictionary definition, to manage. So it's an erasable goal. So the first thing we have to do at level 5C is to address and erase or collapse the goal to handle. And that's the first thing the person has to do. He has to go back to level 5B, in other words, pick up this goal to handle and either erase it or collapse it as a junior goals package. The legs of the goal to handle are to handle, to not handle, to be handled, to not be handled. And it's an erasable goal, provided you define the goal as to handle. Follow so far? It's an easy one. It may have, by the time you get to level 5C, I mean, by the time a person might need to do this technology, the goal to handle might have already erased. So, I mean, it wouldn't be any surprise to discover that when you go to erase it or collapse it, it's already erased or collapsed. It might have already been done. It certainly would have been erased or collapsed if you've addressed the goal to control in therapy. Because if you've erased or collapsed the goal to control, the goal to handle will have also gone. That would have gone too, because the goal to handle is within the goal to control. Right, well, so far, so good. That is the first step of level 5C overts, is to erase or collapse the goal to handle. Then we formulate our process. You see, we can now work with this goal to handle because we've erased it. It's an erased goal. It's an erased package. So we won't have any... In other words, we're now confident that there's no residual charge of conflict in the package itself. In other words, we can use the legs of the package quite... with full confidence that there's no charge on the bank on these legs of the goal to handle, because it's an erased goal or collapsed goal, so they're quite null. So we have to do this step. We must do that step of erasing or collapsing the goal to handle. Having done that, we then formulate our therapy commands to run out the overts on these junior universes. Now, the easiest way I can explain this is to give you an example and work through the example, and we'll create the commands as we go. Let's assume that the junior universe that won't erase is a dress, D-R-E-S-S, a dress. Let's assume that is the junior universe that will not erase at level 5C. Now, the first command that we back up on the subject of the dress is, how have you handled a dress? Repeat, how have you handled a dress? Now, there's two comments I'd like to make on the command. First off, you'll note that there's no suggestion that there's an overt act. The command you're using does not suggest that there's any overts. Yeah, I can assure you that if the person has ever committed any overts towards it on a dress, that audited command will find them. It will peel them off. It will locate them. I can assure you of that. For the reasons I've already given earlier on the tape, that the goal to handle can either be defined constructively or destructively. Now, note the use of the word you. How have you handled a dress? You might say, well, as the person is running solo, he could run, how have I handled a dress? Well, I've tested both there. Tested both of these, and the first one seems to run best. Seems to be more incisive and so forth. But it doesn't really matter. You could ask, how have I handled a dress as you're running solo? But my advice is to use the third person. How have you handled a dress? And realise that the question is being addressed to you. That you are addressing it to yourself. In other words, that you're the therapist addressing the subject in the session, and the question you the therapist are addressing to the subject is, how have you handled a dress? Get it? And having received the question, you then proceed to answer it. You don't have to acknowledge it to yourself. You can dispense with that formality. But I think you'll find that is the use the third person. How have you? That is more incisive, and I think you'll find that runs best. Although to say how have I handled it is not an error. That will run too. But I think you'll find that how have you handled the dress will run better than saying how have I handled the dress. All right. Now, how long do we run that command for? How long do we run that command for? Well, we run that command until there are no more answers. Note that. We run it until there are no more answers. Now, that's something new. You'll find that when you run it to no more answers, you're also running it to no change. It's quite safe. It's safe to use this in this instance. to use this to run to no more answers, because we're going to run another command which is the reverse of it, and so it's quite safe to run this. It's not safe to run all commands in therapy to no more answers, but in this instance it's quite safe to do so because we're running its reverse as well. So it's quite safe. You simply run this to no more answers, and you'll find that when there's no more answers, that the person now this is a point of no change in the session. So we run it to no more answers. Alright, that's command number 1. Now our next command, command number 2, is the exact reverse of command number 1. Is how has a dress handled you? Repeat, how has a dress handled you? Now I'll give some comments on that command. Now, of course, this command won't run overts. This command runs motivators. But this is the other side of the flow. We have to run this flow. We can't just keep running over all the time. We have to reverse the flow. So we're now going to reverse it by saying, how has a dress handled you? So it's a flow reversal here. And the person answers, runs that. Again, you run that to no more answers. Again, that's run to no more answers. Now, it might seem a very peculiar command that it would certainly be a peculiar command to somebody very early on in therapy, but I can assure you very late in therapy a person would be able to answer it quite readily. It's not a difficult command for a person very late in therapy. They would easily see how the dress has handled them, and how the dress has brought them about made them do certain things, and so forth. They would easily be able to answer the question, although a person early on in therapy would have difficulty with it. But we're not running this procedure early on in therapy. It's the last thing being run. So the person's got the whole command of their creativity at their disposal. So it's an easy one, that one. They can run that all right. All right, so we run that to no more change. We run that to no more answers, which will be a point of no more change. Then when there's no more answers to that, we go back to 1, and again run, how have you handled the dress? And we run that to no more answers. Then we go over to 2, and run, how has the dress handled you? Run that to no more answers. Backwards and forwards until neither of them have any more answers. Then we finish with that. We're finished with that now. We're finished with that command now. We're finished with that pair, I should say. We're finished with that pair of commands. And we now move into our second pair of commands. There's only 4 commands in the procedure. We've now covered 2 of them, and there's now going to the second pair. We've now used up the to handle leg of the to handle goals package, haven't we? So now we swing over to the other side of the goals package, to be handled. We now go in and run that side of the package. So we ask the person, or the person asks themselves now, how has a dress been handled? How has a dress been handled? That is command number 3. We don't specify handled by whom. It can be handled by self or handled by not self. We don't specify by whom. It's very, very general. It's a general command. How has a dress been handled? And again, it's run to no more answers. Okay? It's an easy enough command to run. Then we go to command number 4. This is the final command of this set. Is how have you been handled? How have you been handled? And that again, that command is run to no more answers. And when number 4 it's gone to no more answers, you go back to 3, and you alternate 3 and 4 until neither 3 nor 4 have any more answers. Now that sounds a peculiar. Number 4 seems a very peculiar command. It seems an almost irrelevant command. How have you been handled? Well, the purpose of the command is flow balancing, It's simply a comparison. It's a flow balancing comparison there. It allows the person to see, to compare how the way in the universe, how the dress has been handled. You can now compare that to the way he has been handled in the universe. So you can now get a comparison there. See, it's simply a comparison. You're completing in other words, you're completing your flow pattern and making sure that you're not leaving any flow unbalanced, any unbalanced flows here. Now, if those 4 commands are run exactly as I've given them to you, and so forth, and they're run to no more answers, both pairs are run to no more answers, the terminal, the junior universe, will erase at that point in therapy. You may not know it's erased, but it will have erased.